What's up, guys? This is Seville with what is likely my final review of the Power Rangers Legacy line, featuring the Dino Thunder White Ranger. This figure, along with the Psycho Rangers, recently started popping up in my local Walgreens stores, even before the Dino Thunder Yellow Ranger was available, which is a bit strange considering the box style changed in between the two figures, but the Yellow Ranger still had the old box style. But enough about the boxes. If you can give me just a few more seconds, I'll have this figure out of the box. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and comment below. And if you want to see more from me, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. Now that the White Ranger is out of his package, I'm going to give him another full rotation on the spinner. That way you can see him all the way around. I actually just realized that I forgot to attach the weapon holster on during this part of the recording, but don't worry, it'll be on for the rest of the video. So, along with the White Ranger came the second leg for the Build-A-Figure Megazord, which was the final piece that I needed to put it all together. Therefore, this video will also include a review of the completed Dino Thunder Megazord Build-A-Figure. But that'll be later on in the video. For now, let's get back to the White Ranger. So I've got to admit that I'm a bit saddened by this figure. It certainly had the potential for Bandai to go out with a bang. And purely from the front side, you'd think they did. And then you see the back. On the front side, the tiger stripe effects of the shield are raised. They're not just flat and painted. But then on the back side, you can see where they carved in lines for where the tiger stripes were going to go, but then they stopped. I personally can't imagine that being the plan they had for the figure the entire time. And instead, I bet that when Hasbro officially declared they have the license, that production on these figures were sped up, cancelled, or whatever you want to call it. Which makes this look like an unfinished product. Unfortunately, the boots suffer from the same problem, lacking the final paint that they should have had. As does his weapon. The gold trim at the base of the handle should have continued up the blade. So the overall accuracy of this figure is definitely lacking. Articulation-wise, it does maintain the points from previous Legacy figures. The head does turn side to side with some up and down movement, but it can be a little blocked by the shield. The shoulders can rotate all the way around, as well as move outward, but they are definitely blocked by the shield. Biceps do have full rotation, and the double jointed elbows do fold really well. The wrists also have full rotation, and some pretty good back and forth movement too. It does have a pretty decent ab crunch, but again, the shield does get in the way, and he does have full rotation at the waist. The hips spread out pretty far, as well as do really well front to back. There is full rotation in the thighs, and the double knees do fold really well. There's also rotation at the top of the boot, as well as a full ankle rotation and pivot. So with all that said, it's time to run through my guidelines for a complete and fair review. The sculpt is not very unique because it does reuse more parts than not. There were a lot of key details left out of the sculpt and the paint, which also leads to killing the accuracy. It does still have more than 20 points of articulation though, and it's in scale with the rest of the figures. It does balance really well, and did include at least one accessory. The roughly $20 price point has been fair for the Legacy line, and my gripes weren't really quality control based. And finally, accessibility may be an issue because I've only seen one in my town, and that's the one I just reviewed. Which leads this figure to only getting a 6 out of 10 stars. So it's still a pretty awesome figure that would be worth it for the fans of the character, but it's really only going to look good from the front. And now, it's time to move on to the Megazord. Unfortunately, it does share a lot of the same problems as the White Ranger. The sculpt looks okay, with the different patterns added in where they should be, but it's definitely lacking a lot of the colors that it should have, especially from the T-Rex parts. Such as the added silver details. You can see some on the head here, but it does not continue down the tail piece or down the legs, making the overall figure look very bland. While the White Ranger figure did have the excuse of it being the final wave from Bandai, parts of the Build-A-Figure were already out before they knew they were losing the license. So there's not really much of an excuse as to why it looks so unfinished. Especially considering that the torso was the most recently released part, and it actually has the most detail. At least on the front half anyway. Articulation-wise, it doesn't quite reach my requirement of 20 points, but I'll show you what it does have. The head does turn side to side with a little bit of a swivel. The shoulders do spin all the way around and move outward. The arms do have what would be the equivalent of elbow joints, but because it's dinosaur parts, they are a little weird. He does have just a little bit of rotation in the waist, but the different parts are very much a hindrance. The hips only spread out so far, but do pretty well front to back. It does have single jointed knees that fold to a 90-degree angle, and the ankles have 4 rotation plus some pivot. So, overall, I can only give this figure a 5-star rating, which means it's worth owning for diehard completists, but in my opinion, as a standalone item, it wouldn't be worth hunting down the parts to build it. However, if you are still looking for these, or any of the other previously released Legacy figures, many of them have begun restocking in GameStop stores and online. The GameStop website and app also show many figures still up for pre-order, with a February 6th release date, but those dates aren't very concrete on action figures. In any case, this is probably the best chance any of us will have to catch up on figures we missed before Hasbro takes over with the Lightning Collection. Slated to start at some point in the spring, Wave 1 has been stated to include the figures listed here in this image, such as the white and pink Rangers from Mighty Morphin, as well as Lord Zed. It will also have a mix of Beast Morphers and Dino Charge. However, the only figure to have official prototype images released so far has been the White Ranger. The line is stated at being similar to Marvel Legends and the Star Wars Black Series. Each figure will include their weapons, as well as unmasked heads. Not much else is known right now, but I'm hoping that's going to change at the upcoming Toy Fair event, which I will do a video about after that time. And I will definitely be doing comparison videos once these figures are released. Thank you guys for watching, and if you like this video,
Get over here!
and subscribe to Civilian Collectibles.